Coming up on Saturday, Full Gear, one of the marquee matchups. Sting, Darby Allin, Adam Copeland going up against Christian Cage, Luchasaurus. And if you haven't guessed by the music, our guest right now, Mr. Nick Way. Nick, how are you? And thank you so much for the time this morning.
Hello, you guys. I'm good. How are you guys?
We are excited. We're excited for Full Gear this weekend and excited to have you on for a very first time here on Busted Open, Nick.
Yes, thank you guys. Thank you guys.
So, Nick, let me ask you, this story, the story involving your family history, your dad, difficult for you to do that on Dynamite each week?
I wouldn't say maybe difficult, but it's definitely it's definitely like a touchy subject. You know what I mean? So to put it out there and present it to the real world and kind of give them all the details and all the feelings about a real life tragic situation. Sometimes you don't know like what is too far and what is like, do you really tell them like everything? But everything that we've said and done has been like a complete 100% true story. So we've kind of just held nothing back. You know, it's just what is presented on TV is the full real story and full real feelings and affections.
Well,
Yeah, Tommy.
I was going to say, you know, your father, I knew your dad, your father being in the industry. One, I know he'd be super proud, but the other part of it is he would give everything he would to further a storyline. So you like growing up in the industry, you get that, especially now involving your mom and all that stuff. So it's kind of ingrained in you because you've been wrestling at how old? Because I remember hearing the stories of you. I went up and worked for ASW, and it was around the time when your father had passed, and everyone was talking about you. And they're like, "Yeah, he's wrestling." I believe you were what, 13 or 15?
Around that time. So I made my in-ring debut around 12, and I met you around 11 or 12. But I started training once I was 9.
Yeah, wow. So I mean, you're also, in my opinion, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you're honoring him and his memory by involving him in this angle.
Very much so. That is like kind of my goal. And a lot of people have told me that were close to my dad. They were like, I feel like this is an amazing thing that you get to present your father and his story on a national televised level, even without him being here. So yes, exactly what you said is exactly what I'm trying to do.
I love it.
Nick, how does your mom feel about this entire situation and story playing out on television?
So I had a feeling because before I made my debut, we kind of made these video packages before at the wrestling school. So I think she knew that the story would kind of play out and become like a main persona, I guess you could say, of mine, or like a big thing that would be out there to the public. And she was okay with it because I think she saw it coming. But getting her involved with it and then all the stuff with Christian and Darby, that I don't think any of us knew what happened. So, but everything we've been doing, like she's cool with, she's on board with. And I think and everyone else thinks she's doing great with it. So
have you or your mom have to have been convinced of anything that Christian has wanted to do or say?
No, everything's been like on board. The only things that have gotten like tough was like when we had to film the introduction packages, the parts where I'd have to talk about my dad and the day everything happened, because we kind of just filmed like a 10-15 minute thing of me talking and they just put it into pieces and piece it together. Those are like the only hard parts. It's just like kind of recalling and rethinking the day is what gets tough and chokes me up.
Yep. Dave and I were sold on your heel persona after the sit down. And I mean, we were like, you little son of a bitch. And especially then when Christian came on the back end of that entire thing. And I mean, I know because you're a student of the game, but you know, you're going in. I mean, if you could ever picture your young life, even though you're in the wrestling business, you're going to be facing Adam Copeland, Sting, and Darby Allin, who I know had a big part in your hiring and your career. And you also have Christian as your partner. I mean, this is insane. If you really like, it's one of those, how did I get here moments?
It is a very how did I get here moment just about every week for me, to be real. I think the first time was either Wrestle Dream when I had the turn, or the previous week when we did the segment. Just standing up on the stage next to Christian and then looking down the ramp and into the ring at Sting and Adam Copeland, is I was like, there's no way I'm standing here right now at 18 with these people. And like, especially with Sting being on the back end of his career right now with his retirement coming up in February, knowing that I will be one of his final matches and one of his last pay-per-view matches at 18 just blows my mind when I sit there and I think about it. It's like, I couldn't be more grateful for an opportunity like this at such a young age.
Is the Nature Boy Ric Flair going to be in the corner?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he's going to be in the corner on Saturday. So think about that. Think of Sting, Flair, and Adam Copeland. You know, Nick, like in the mainstream sport world, like football, basketball, you were what we would call a blue chip prospect. You're somebody that was signed early on before you were even at the age to be able to step into the ring. So what was that period like for you, knowing that you were going to be part of the AEW family, but just waiting for the timing of your age being able to step on the ring on national TV? What was that time like for you?
So when I got presented the contract, I was 16. It was in about February of 2022, and I had to wait until July of 2023 to debut on TV for AEW. So that time, that year and a half long, I just tried to get as best as I could. I tried to do all the independence possible, just fill up my days completely, while on top of that, still going to a normal high school junior and senior year. So just the weekends and the weekdays, I would try to fill up my schedule as much as possible. I went international in that time. I did 2 tours in Japan, I think 5 in the UK. I went to France. So I just tried to stay as busy as possible and just become the best version of myself, and working out and eating as consistent as possible. Even though I might not look the best right now, I'm still only 18, but I work out every day. I eat 6 times a day, just trying to put on size and become the best version I can of myself, to eventually get to that position that was AEW and just be the best version of myself that I could.
Growth hormone will help you put on a lot of size.
You stop. You don't listen to that. That's why he's a heel. Don't listen to him.
Nick,
Nick, let me ask you. Hold on, Dave. Nick, you jumped from the Indies right onto AEW television. Tell me the number one thing you learned once moving on to a major company and working with stars who have been there and done that.
That less is more. Less is very much more. There's like there was a phase on the Indies where it felt like more was more. You know what I mean? It felt like so many like run to this was like how it's done, but then once you work with these professionals, it's like, no, it's just this and it's done, and it's the same thing. You get the same effect, you get the same reaction. So less is more. And I kind of learned that less is more working with like veterans before, or like working with people from Japan. It's just like it's straight to the point. And like working I talked and worked with William Regal a few times, and he taught me the same thing. And he was like, run to this. It's the same thing. It's just ducking and doing this. And I would eventually move on to the duck in this, and it was the same. So learning that less is more, probably the biggest one.
Very refreshing to hear somebody your age and with your time in the business being willing to admit that they have learned that so quick, because that is so true. And if you can comprehend that now at 18 years old, you're going to preserve your body for a long time and be able to tell much better stories while it's still incorporating some of the high-flying style that you do. So that's great that you can acknowledge that and understand that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And it was like what Tommy just said earlier as well. Like that sit down interview did so much more than any kind of move that you could possibly do inside of a wrestling ring. And I would think that's the biggest thing of being part of a weekly show, Nick, is realizing that you are telling stories. Yes, you have to be a great athlete. That's the foundation of everything that's done in pro wrestling. But being able to tell a story, and you and Christian have been able to do that in a very, very big way. It must be very satisfying to you knowing that you're able to do something like that.
Very much so. Yes, it's kind of crazy to see like how much longevity you can get with just segments. You know, you don't have to do a match, just segments. Like from Wrestle Dream until now, I've wrestled 2 times. You know, but we're on a segment every single week, and we have this longevity from then until now, and it's just crazy to see. You know, and the people that maybe don't understand how much longevity you can get from just segments, they tell me like, dude, you're not wrestling at all. Or they're like, you haven't wrestled in so long. Like, what is going on? Like, why do you? It's like, you don't need a match every week to get distance and longevity. So just these segments and just standing there on the stage and cutting promos is probably so much more distance than doing a 8-minute match against whoever, you know.
I've seen what Christian has done mentorship with other people, Jack Perry, Luchasaurus. Is he very hands-on with you?
Very much so, yes. I'm very like I feel very grateful every week to be under his learning tree. He's just his brain is like no other.
I agree. He's also a dick, so be careful.
Most geniuses in this business are dicks, Nick. Are
They can
you,
be.
Nick? Are you more comfortable being loved or hated?
So I've never been hated until now. I've been a babyface, and I feel like it would write itself for me to be a babyface from like 14 or 12 until now. So this is kind of like my first time being an actual heel and like being displayed as a bad guy. Like I've taken control in like face versus face matches, but it was never like boo, you know. But now is like my first time being presented and wrestling and being put out there as a heel.
And are you comfortable with it?
It's still getting in the comfort process, yes, because I've only had 2 matches as a heel, but like all the segments and everything, it feels like it feels natural because I'm in there with the people I'm in there with. But it's still something I'm kind of getting used to.
So you're used to having fans respond to your athleticism in a ring. Now they're responding for the way you've basically turned your back on your mother and how you've taken you're under Christian's wing. So you're getting. Do you hear the crowd when they're yelling at you or telling you they might not like you or booing you? And how is that resonating with you just in the few weeks or months that you have been a heel?
So like you said, all the times where I was a face, I would get those natural happy and yay reactions because of athleticism or because they saw pain on my face and they wanted to see me win. But now, I wondered, I was like, is this gonna work? Like, are they gonna boo me? You know what I mean? And the night of Wrestle Dream, when we did the turn and I walked back up the ramp, on each side of the ramp were people sticking their arms, giving me the 2 middle fingers over the guardrail, and wrestling and doing these segments. It's like I hear many boos and I hear many people. Are we allowed to swear on here?
Yes.
I hear many people like, fuck you, Nick. I fucking hate you, Nick. It's just like it's great. So I feel like I'm getting those bad reactions, it's like you're doing the right thing as a heel.
Nick, I got to ask you something because you're from this generation. Social media doesn't really affect Bully and I, but you're from that generation with social media, like hating you. It's also
Mhm.
your job. How do you deal with that? Because you're 18 years old and you have this pressure of everyone hating you now. But it's like I don't think I could become a pro wrestler today because I think that would bother me. How does that affect you mentally? Like,
So being a heel and kind of look like seeing stuff on the internet on a weekly basis, I see people tweet saying Nick Wayne has such a punchable face, which I think is perfect. I'm like, I got you. You want to punch me in the face? I got you. But then there's other people who say like Nick Wayne is a fucking terrible wrestler. Like why does he have the TV time he does? Why is he in the position he's in? But then again, it's like there was a time where when I was a face, I would see comments like that and I would be like, damn, I'm like, what is like why? You know, and I start to maybe question like, am I doing something wrong? But then I kind of I'm like, these are just people behind a keyboard. It's like I will never see this person. And it's like they're just it's very opinionated. And there's a lot of people who try to like say what they think is best and try to book the show, honestly. And but being a heel and kind of seeing that stuff is like, maybe I got you, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's very like opinionated, and I feel like everyone thinks they have a valid opinion kind of behind the keyboard. But I ignore it now. It's one of those things where when I first started, I would like vanity search my name on Twitter to be like, what are people talking about me? And it would be, I would see bad comments and I start to think about it like, why? You know, and I kind of question it. I'd ask other people like, am I doing something wrong? And they're like, it's so opinionated. This happens with everybody, with every wrestler that's on that national TV stage. Everyone gets hated on. It's just like, it's a part of the deal, you know? So
Yep.
it doesn't really affect me at all. And like, if I had hate when I was younger, when I was like 15, 16, and people would hate on me, I never let it get to me back then either. I would just use it as a motivation to get better and to try to prove them wrong one day. But now, living in the world where it is very opinionated, I don't really let it bother me.
Good. And don't ever let it.
Nick, you're doing a great job, because I got to be honest, I hate you. So what you're doing on TV each and every week is definitely clicking and definitely working. I'm really looking forward to this matchup that's taking place on Saturday at Full Gear. Again, available on pay-per-view, Saturday, Full Gear, out on the West Coast. Sting, Darby Allin, Adam Copeland going up against Christian Cage, Luchasaurus, and our guest, Nick Wayne. Nick, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. We'll be watching Dynamite tonight. We'll be watching on Friday. And, of course, we'll be watching Full Gear on Saturday. And we'll be talking about it right here on Busted Open. Nick, awesome job. Great first interview. And thank you so much for the time.
Thank you guys for all your guys' time. Thank you guys for having me.